In the picturesque suburb of Greenwood Village, Colorado, the Thornton family home stood as a symbol of success and affluence. Nestled among manicured lawns and elegant residences, Jack Thornton's house was a showcase of his achievements, a sprawling estate with classical architecture, meticulously landscaped gardens, and an interior adorned with tasteful, high-end furnishings. To the residents of Greenwood Village, Jack was more than just a successful real estate agent. He was a local icon whose life seemed to epitomize the American dream. Jack Thornton, in his mid-40s, was the quintessential embodiment of charm and competence. His career in real estate had flourished, earning him a reputation for closing high-value deals and possessing an exceptional knack for networking. His charisma and sophisticated demeanor made him a sought-after figure at community events, charity galas, and business functions. Jack's reputation was carefully crafted through a combination of professional success, philanthropic efforts, and a carefully maintained public image. Jack's personal life mirrored his professional success. He was married to Emily Thornton, a well-respected figure in her own right, known for her involvement in local charities and social events. Their marriage, while seemingly perfect, was a product of careful curation, much like Jack's career. Together, they had built a life that many admired and aspired to emulate. Beneath the surface of this polished exterior, however, lay a deeply hidden secret that threatened to unravel Jack's carefully constructed world. Jack's stepson, Andrew Michaels, was a pivotal figure in this concealed narrative. Andrew, a 21-year-old art student with aspirations of becoming a professional artist, had entered Jack's life when Emily married him several years earlier. Andrew's arrival in their family initially brought a sense of new energy and creativity into the Thornton household. The relationship between Jack and Andrew started innocently enough. Jack, keen to connect with his new stepson, offered support for Andrew's burgeoning art career. They spent time together discussing art, visiting galleries, and even collaborating on various creative projects. What began as a benign bond between stepfather and stepson gradually evolved into a complex and illicit affair. As their connection deepened, so did the nature of their relationship. Jack and Andrew's interactions, initially focused on artistic interests and mentorship, transformed into something far more intimate and forbidden. Their relationship developed behind closed doors, away from the prying eyes of Emily and the close-knit community of Greenwood Village. They shared secret rendezvous and exchanged passionate declarations that defied both societal norms and personal ethics. Their clandestine affair was marked by an intense emotional and physical connection. Meetings were planned with meticulous care, often in discreet locations or during moments when the household was empty. The secrecy of their relationship only heightened its allure, but it also bred a deep sense of anxiety and guilt for both parties. The hidden nature of their affair placed immense emotional strain on both Jack and Andrew. Jack, accustomed to managing his public persona with precision, found himself grappling with the dual pressures of maintaining a perfect image while engaging in a forbidden relationship. The weight of this secret cast a long shadow over his daily life, causing stress and anxiety that began to seep into his interactions with those around him. Andrew, on the other hand, struggled with his own set of conflicting emotions. The excitement of the relationship was tempered by feelings of guilt and fear. As a young man seeking to establish his own identity and career, Andrew found himself ensnared in a situation that threatened both his personal integrity and his future prospects. The strain of keeping such a significant secret affected his mental well-being, leading to moments of intense emotional turmoil. To the outside world, Jack Thornton remained a beacon of success and stability. His public appearances were marked by his trademark charm, and his professional achievements continued to draw admiration from colleagues and clients alike. However, behind the facade of his seemingly perfect life, the hidden relationship with Andrew began to create cracks in his personal world. The emotional instability and secrecy started to erode the foundation of his well-maintained public persona, setting the stage for a series of events that would ultimately expose the fragility of his carefully curated existence. The contrast between Jack's outward success and the hidden turmoil of his private life laid the groundwork for a dramatic unraveling. The stage was set for the forthcoming revelations and the profound impact they would have on everyone involved. As the weeks turned into months, the clandestine affair between Jack Thornton and his stepson, Andrew Michaels, grew increasingly fraught with tension. The weight of their secret began to take a significant emotional toll, exacerbating the cracks in their once cohesive lives. The facade of normalcy they had so painstakingly maintained started to fracture, revealing the instability beneath. Jack and Andrew's relationship, once marked by an intense emotional and physical connection, became increasingly complicated as their circumstances evolved. The pressure to keep their affair hidden while maintaining their public personas created a mounting sense of anxiety. For Andrew, the emotional burden of the relationship was becoming unbearable. He struggled with feelings of guilt and remorse, torn between his deep affection for Jack and his growing unease over the deceit and secrecy that surrounded their affair. Andrew's agitation was further fueled by the strain of leading a double life. His interactions with Jack became more fraught with conflict as they grappled with the realities of their situation. The secrecy that once added an element of excitement now served as a constant source of stress, eroding the joy they had initially found in their relationship. Jack, on the other hand, was increasingly desperate to preserve his outwardly successful life. The pressure to maintain his polished public image while dealing with the emotional chaos of the affair led to growing internal conflict. Jack's demeanor at home became more strained, and his interactions with Emily and the community grew increasingly distant. The emotional toll of hiding his relationship from his wife and their close-knit social circle was evident in his erratic behavior and growing frustration. One particularly tense evening, the strain of their secret relationship reached a breaking point. Jack and Andrew had a heated argument about their future, a discussion that had become more frequent as the emotional weight of their situation intensified. Andrew questioned the sustainability of their affair and expressed his growing disillusionment with the deceit that had come to define their lives. The argument escalated quickly. Andrew's frustration boiled over as he confronted Jack about the impact of their relationship on both of their lives. He voiced his fears about the potential for discovery and the ethical implications of their continued affair. Andrew's emotions were raw and unfiltered, reflecting his deepening sense of disillusionment and distress. Jack, feeling cornered and desperate, attempted to calm Andrew and reassure him of his commitment. However, his efforts to placate Andrew only seemed to exacerbate the situation. The argument grew louder and more intense, with both men exchanging accusations and venting their pent-up frustrations. The emotional exchange reached a fever pitch, with each man's fears and insecurities laid bare. Unable to reconcile their differences and overwhelmed by the emotional intensity of the argument, Andrew made a dramatic decision. He stormed out of the house, leaving behind a tense and emotionally charged atmosphere. Jack, alarmed by Andrew's abrupt departure and the potential consequences of their public unraveling, felt a surge of panic. Driven by a sense of urgency and fear of losing control over his carefully constructed life, Jack pursued Andrew. The confrontation was not only a desperate attempt to salvage their relationship, but also a manifestation of Jack's fear of exposure and the collapse of his carefully maintained facade. Jack's sense of control was slipping, and he was determined to prevent Andrew from leaving or revealing their secret. Jack drove to a remote park on the outskirts of town, a place where they had previously met in secret. The isolation of the park provided a semblance of privacy, but it also became the backdrop for their most volatile confrontation yet. The park was eerily quiet as Jack arrived, his car headlights cutting through the darkness. Andrew was already there, standing alone under a solitary street lamp, his figure silhouetted against the dim light. The tension between them was palpable as Jack approached, their previous argument still lingering in the air. What followed was a confrontation fueled by anger, fear, and desperation. The discussion quickly devolved into a physical struggle as both men grappled with their emotions and each other. Jack's attempts to reason with Andrew turned into a heated exchange, with voices raised and emotions running high. The argument, initially verbal, escalated into a violent altercation. In the heat of the moment, Jack's desperation to regain control and prevent Andrew from leaving reached a breaking point. The confrontation turned violent as both men physically struggled, their emotions overriding their judgment. The altercation was marked by a chaotic and intense struggle, with Jack's actions becoming increasingly aggressive. The situation spiraled out of control, culminating in a tragic and violent act that resulted in Andrew's injury. The details of the altercation were brutal, driven by a combination of fear, anger, and the desire to assert dominance. The violence of the encounter was shocking and devastating, leaving both men emotionally and physically scarred. As the night wore on, Jack was left grappling with the consequences of the violent confrontation. The park, once a place of secrecy and intimacy, had become a site of tragedy. Jack's emotional turmoil and the gravity of his actions began to set in as he faced the reality of what had transpired. The confrontation marked a turning point in their relationship, sealing the fate of their once secret affair. The violence of the encounter had far-reaching consequences, setting the stage for the subsequent investigation and legal proceedings that would unfold in the chapters to come. In the wake of the violent act, Jack and Andrew's lives were irrevocably changed. The impact of their confrontation would reverberate through their personal lives and the community, leading to a series of revelations and consequences that would expose the cracks in their facade and unravel the carefully constructed world Jack had worked so hard to maintain. The tranquil facade of Greenwood Village, with its neatly trimmed lawns and elegant homes, was irrevocably shattered one crisp morning when Andrew Michaels's body was discovered in a remote corner of a local park. The park, a secluded area known for its serene beauty, had become the scene of a chilling and tragic event. The discovery was made by an early morning jogger who stumbled upon the lifeless body amidst the overgrown vegetation and shadows cast by the trees. The initial shock and confusion were palpable as the local authorities were alerted. The police quickly arrived at the scene, and a detailed investigation commenced. The initial focus of suspicion fell upon Andrew's estranged biological father, Robert Michaels. Robert had a contentious history with Andrew, marked by estrangement and unresolved conflicts. The police, aware of their strained relationship, initially considered him a prime suspect. His lack of an alibi and previous grievances provided a basis for investigation. However, as the days progressed and the investigation delved deeper, attention began to shift. Detectives discovered that Andrew's last known interactions were with his stepfather, Jack Thornton. This shift in focus came not from any overt evidence, but from a series of subtle clues that began to emerge. One of the pivotal discoveries in the investigation was a set of hidden cameras that Jack Thornton had installed around his property. Ostensibly, these cameras were meant for security purposes, but they inadvertently captured crucial footage of the night in question. The recordings, initially intended to safeguard against burglary, revealed a different kind of intrusion, a disturbing glimpse into the final moments between Jack and Andrew. The footage from the hidden cameras was both shocking and revealing. It depicted an intense and heated argument between Jack and Andrew, their voices rising in a mix of frustration and desperation. The recordings captured the escalation of their argument, providing a raw and unfiltered view of the emotional and physical struggle that ensued. The cameras recorded the final confrontation with a chilling clarity, showing how the argument rapidly devolved into violence. The sequence of events unfolded in the recordings with harrowing detail. Jack's desperate attempts to placate Andrew gave way to a fierce physical altercation, underscoring the raw intensity of their struggle. The footage revealed Jack's aggressive actions and the subsequent violent act that led to Andrew's death. This evidence was pivotal, offering an unambiguous account of the fatal confrontation. As the police examined the footage, it became increasingly clear that Jack Thornton was at the center of the unfolding scandal. The evidence against him was compelling and irrefutable. The recordings not only captured the moment of violence but also illuminated the emotional and psychological state of both men. Jack's demeanor in the footage was starkly different from his polished public persona, revealing a man consumed by desperation and conflict. The arrest of Jack Thornton followed swiftly. The footage and other evidence presented a damning case, and Jack was charged with the murder of his stepson. The arrest was a dramatic turn of events that stunned the community. The once respected real estate agent, admired for his success and charm, was now the focal point of a scandal that shocked and dismayed Greenwood Village. The impact of Andrew's death and Jack's subsequent arrest reverberated through the community, unraveling the seemingly perfect life Jack had built. The scandal that emerged was not just about the violent act itself, but also about the stark contrast between Jack's public image and the reality of his actions. The serene veneer of Greenwood Village was replaced by a grim reality, as residents grappled with the unsettling truth of the events that had transpired. The trial of Jack Thornton swiftly captured the attention of the nation, becoming a media sensation that drew widespread interest from journalists, spectators, and community members alike. The courtroom, a stark and somber setting, was frequently packed with people eager to witness the dramatic unfolding of the case. The trial promised not only legal proceedings but also an intense public spectacle that offered a glimpse into the private turmoil of a once revered figure. The prosecution's strategy hinged on presenting the hidden camera footage, a crucial piece of evidence that would set the tone for the trial. As the courtroom watched, the footage played out on a large screen, its contents both riveting and horrifying. The recordings captured the final, fateful moments between Jack Thornton and Andrew Michaels, offering an unvarnished look at their intense argument and the subsequent violent confrontation. The footage depicted Jack's aggressive actions and the emotional escalation that led to Andrew's death. Each frame of the recording contributed to a narrative that painted Jack as a man driven to violence by the pressures of his secret life. The prosecution used the footage to establish a clear sequence of events, demonstrating how the argument between Jack and Andrew escalated from verbal conflict to physical violence. The detailed view into the confrontation was instrumental in illustrating Jack's culpability, providing the jury and the public with a stark and graphic representation of the crime. The emotional impact of the footage was palpable, as it conveyed not just the physical struggle but also the emotional and psychological depth of the incident. In addition to the footage, the prosecution presented testimonies from Jack's friends and colleagues. These witnesses described Jack's behavior leading up to the incident, offering insights into his deteriorating state of mind. Their accounts painted a picture of a man increasingly burdened by the weight of his double life. Friends noted changes in Jack's demeanor, including heightened irritability and social withdrawal, which they attributed to the stress of maintaining his secret relationship. These testimonies aimed to reinforce the prosecution's argument that Jack's actions were not an isolated incident, but a result of his prolonged emotional and psychological strain. In response, the defense mounted a counter-argument that focused on psychological factors in Jack's character. They contended that Jack's actions were the result of extreme psychological stress and emotional turmoil. The defense presented evidence of Jack's mental state, including expert testimony from psychologists who described the profound impact of his secret affair on his emotional well-being. They argued that the intense pressure and guilt stemming from the hidden relationship had significantly affected Jack's judgment and behavior, leading to the tragic confrontation with Andrew. The defense also made a concerted effort to highlight Jack's previously unblemished character and his contributions to the community. They presented evidence of Jack's positive reputation and his role as a respected professional and philanthropist. Character witnesses and testimonials from those who had known Jack for years, the defense aimed to portray the incident as an aberration, a deviation from an otherwise upstanding and honorable life. They argued that Jack's actions, while grievous, did not reflect his true nature but rather the culmination of overwhelming personal stress. As the trial progressed, the courtroom became a stage for intense emotional drama. The clash between the prosecution and defense created a dynamic and contentious atmosphere. The hidden camera footage had a profound impact on the proceedings, eliciting strong reactions from both the jury and the public. The testimonies provided a multifaceted view of Jack's life, contrasting his public persona with the darker reality revealed by the evidence. Media coverage of the trial was relentless, with every detail scrutinized and broadcast to a captivated audience. The case became a focal point of public discourse, with discussions about morality, secrecy, and the consequences of living a double life dominating the media landscape. Jack Thornton's trial was not just a legal battle but a public spectacle that exposed the vulnerabilities and complexities of a man who had once seemed invincible. In the end, the trial of Jack Thornton was a dramatic exploration of the intersections between personal failings and public perception. It revealed the deep fissures in a seemingly perfect life and highlighted the intense emotional and psychological struggles that can lurk behind a facade of success. The proceedings set the stage for a resolution that would address not only the legal implications of the crime, but also the broader questions about human behavior and the impact of hidden truths. As the trial of Jack Thornton unfolded, it took on a profoundly emotional dimension with the testimonies of those who were intimately affected by the tragedy. The courtroom, previously a battleground of legal arguments and evidence, became a venue for raw and poignant personal reflections that brought the human cost of the crime into sharp focus. Emily Thornton's testimony marked a turning point in the trial. As Jack's wife, Emily had been thrust into the spotlight, forced to confront the unimaginable: her husband's illicit affair with her stepson and the subsequent murder that had shattered their family. When Emily took the stand, her composure was visibly fragile, and her voice wavered as she recounted the events that had irrevocably altered her life. She spoke of the initial shock and disbelief upon discovering Jack's affair. Emily's account painted a picture of a woman who had believed in the stability and integrity of her marriage, only to find it dismantled by the revelations of betrayal and violence. Emily detailed the emotional devastation she experienced, not only from the affair itself but also from the violent death of her stepson. Her testimony conveyed the profound sense of loss and confusion she felt as she struggled to reconcile the loving husband she thought she knew with the man now accused of such heinous acts. The impact of the crime on Emily's personal life was palpable. She described sleepless nights, the collapse of her sense of security, and the overwhelming sense of isolation that came with being the spouse of a high-profile criminal defendant. Her emotional vulnerability in the courtroom underscored the depth of her suffering and the personal destruction wrought by the tragedy. Alongside Emily, Andrew's family took the stand to share their own harrowing experiences. Their testimonies were a tapestry of grief and betrayal, reflecting the profound impact of Andrew's death on their lives. They spoke with heartfelt anguish about the loss of a young man whose future had been abruptly and violently cut short. For them, Andrew was not just a victim of a crime but a cherished family member whose absence left a void that could never be filled. The family's statements conveyed the raw pain of losing Andrew and the sense of betrayal they felt from Jack Thornton. They described the deep emotional toll of the murder, not only as a personal loss but also as a breach of trust and security. The family's grief was compounded by the knowledge that the person responsible for the crime was someone they had once considered a trusted member of their extended family. Their testimonies painted a picture of the ripple effects of the tragedy, highlighting how the crime had reverberated through their lives, leaving them grappling with both sorrow and anger. In the emotional courtroom atmosphere, the contrast between Jack Thornton's once admired public persona and the grim reality of his actions became starkly evident. The testimonies revealed the complexity of the case, illustrating how the actions of one man had far-reaching consequences that extended beyond the legal realm and into the personal lives of those affected. The courtroom, filled with spectators and media representatives, bore witness to the raw emotional expressions of those directly impacted by the crime. The narratives of Emily Thornton and Andrew's family underscored the human cost of Jack's actions, offering a poignant reminder of the lives forever altered by the tragedy. Their testimonies served not only to provide insight into the personal ramifications of the crime, but also to highlight the broader themes of betrayal, loss, and the struggle to understand the motives and consequences of Jack's actions. As the trial continued, the emotional weight of these testimonies became a central element of the proceedings, shaping the narrative of the case and affecting how the public and the jury perceived the complexities of the crime. The stark contrast between Jack's public facade and the intimate realities revealed in court further deepened the gravity of the situation, underscoring the profound impact of his actions on all those involved. As the trial of Jack Thornton drew to a close, the atmosphere in the courtroom was thick with anticipation. The jurors, having spent weeks deliberating over the evidence and the emotional testimonies, faced the formidable task of delivering a verdict that would determine the fate of a man whose actions had upended multiple lives. The gravity of the case weighed heavily on everyone involved, as it was not merely a legal proceeding but a profound exploration of human frailty, secrecy, and morality. The final moments of the trial were marked by a palpable tension. The courtroom was filled with the somber faces of spectators, journalists, and family members, all awaiting the jury's decision. The verdict would not only decide Jack Thornton's fate but also bring a sense of closure to a community that had been shaken to its core. The trial had revealed the darker side of a man who was once admired and respected, exposing the hidden complexities behind a facade and charm. When the jury finally returned with their decision, the atmosphere in the courtroom was electric with expectation. The foreperson read the verdict, and as the words echoed through the room, the impact was immediate and profound. Jack Thornton was found guilty of the murder of his stepson, Andrew Michaels. The verdict was a significant moment of reckoning, reflecting the deep-seated consequences of Jack's actions and the extensive emotional and psychological damage inflicted upon those affected by the crime. The sentencing phase followed, where the gravity of Jack's crime was further addressed. The judge delivered a sentence that would reflect the severity of the crime and the need for justice. The courtroom remained silent as the sentence was announced, the final chapter in a legal saga that had captivated the community and beyond. Jack Thornton's once celebrated life was now marked by the weight of his actions and the consequences of his double life. In the wake of the verdict, the community of Greenwood Village was left to grapple with the fallout of the trial. The scandal surrounding Jack Thornton had left an indelible mark, transforming him from a symbol of success and respect into a figure of betrayal and shame. The case prompted a collective reevaluation of trust and the hidden aspects of seemingly perfect lives. The once glossy veneer of the community's prosperity and security had been pierced, revealing the underlying vulnerabilities and complexities that lay beneath. The aftermath of the trial saw a community in mourning, not only for Andrew Michaels but also for the loss of innocence and trust that had been so thoroughly upended. The scandal had caused ripples that extended beyond the courtroom, affecting the lives of many who had once admired Jack Thornton. The case served as a sobering reminder of the often hidden complexities behind outward appearances and the far-reaching consequences of personal choices. In the end, the trial of Jack Thornton was more than a legal battle. It was a stark reflection of the intersections between morality, secrecy, and justice. It underscored the profound impact that hidden truths and personal failings can have on individuals and communities. The case left a lasting legacy, serving as a cautionary tale about the costs of living a life shrouded in deceit and the pursuit of justice for those whose lives are irrevocably altered by such actions.